Thank you everyone for subscribing to Infinitely Productions. If you have not done so, please click the bell and subscribe, and we hope you enjoy our content.
Vincent Gigante would soon develop a new disguise to conceal his criminal activities. By the late 1950s, Vincent Chin Gigante's association with mob boss Vito Genovese had made him a key player in organized crime. His role in the attempted assassination of Frank Costello had elevated his position in the mafia, but also brought him to the attention of federal authorities. In 1959, prosecutors convicted the 30-year-old Gigante and his mentor, 62-year-old Vito Genovese, of heroin trafficking.
Gigante was, according to our information, a protege of Genovese. The bright boy, he was the rising star of the underworld.
He was sentenced to 7 years in Lewisburg Federal Penitentiary. In time, Gigante learned to make the best of life in the big house.
I'm not sure that we had club fed, as might be portrayed, but certainly these people were not doing the kind of hard time that we would anticipate.
He managed to get along pretty well with the guards. He didn't cause any problems. He took care of educational programs, and he was kind of viewed by the federal prison system as a good inmate.
Gigante's good behavior shaved 2 years off his sentence. In 1964, he left prison and went straight back to the mob.
He came back, of course, right to Greenwich Village, to his home base, and in a very short time after that, he was made a capo, a captain in the family.
Gigante was now making good money, even while his mentor, Vito Genovese, sat in prison. Soon, Gigante moved his wife Olympia and their 5 children out of their New York apartment and into a house in the suburbs.
He suddenly had a lot of money, and he set up his family in a suburban town called Old Tappan, New Jersey. But he always kept an apartment in Greenwich Village, where he lived with his mother and other relatives.
The 5 years he'd spent in prison were etched in Gigante's mind.
He said to himself, there's never any way I'm coming back to this institution or any place like this ever again.
Before long, Chin would develop a new strategy to avoid another prosecution.
The idea of the Crazy Act came about first time in 1969. Gigante was arrested in New Jersey on a charge of bribing the entire 5-member police force of Old Tappan.
After learning he was being investigated, Gigante checked himself into a mental hospital. His brother, Louis, a Catholic priest, claimed Vincent was mentally ill, suffering from dementia and taking medication for paranoid schizophrenia. He explained to the press that Vincent was just giving the policemen tips as Christmas presents.
His lawyers managed to bring in evidence, or that he'd been undergoing psychiatric treatment, that he was emotionally disturbed. And the charges were dropped.
After a scrape with New Jersey authorities, it appears a rift developed between Gigante and his wife. In the years that followed, Gigante was rarely seen at the family's home in Old Tappan. He eventually took a mistress and put her up in a townhouse on Manhattan's Upper East Side.
Interestingly, Chin Gigante's wife is named Olympia, and his paramour of many years is also named Olympia Esposito.
So this was a guy who could never make a mistake when he woke up. Whatever name he uttered in his sleep was the right name.
In 1969, Vito Genovese, Gigante's friend and mentor, died in Springfield, Missouri's Medical Center for Federal Prisoners. But New York's other mafia bosses still operated with little interference from the FBI. That began to change in 1970 when Congress passed what became known as the RICO Act.
The Racketeer Influence Corrupt Organizations Act enabled the government to pursue not just individuals but organizations, enterprises, and in particular, organized crime families.
Armed with the RICO statutes, law enforcement could now aggressively target the mob's leadership.
The Genovese crime family decided to put upfront bosses in place to kind of take the heat as the person who was really the boss, while the real boss, meanwhile, was sitting in the background.
For the next 10 years, the mob played an intricate shell game with the feds, concealing which mobster was really the godfather. Many believe that during this time, Vincent Gigante completed his climb from chauffeur and enforcer to become the most powerful godfather in the mafia. Now vulnerable to prosecution, Gigante developed a complex chain of communication to hide his true role.
He told all of his guys to make sure they never uttered his name.
And they couldn't even refer to his name, his nickname, Chin.
They made motions like this when they spoke about him.
He once tried to get the Lucchese family to kill a very important member because on some tape he'd been picked up and he'd mentioned the name Chin. This was his protective shield.
It was only a matter of time before someone slipped up. During the 1980s, federal investigators had successfully infiltrated the mob. By 1986, they knew Gigante was planning a hit on rival crime boss John Gotti.
The FBI taped some New Jersey Genovese mobster saying they had got a contract from Chin to kill Gotti.
When the car bomb meant for Gotti took the life of one of his lieutenants, the feds began to close in on Gigante. For the next 10 years, Gigante would check himself into and out of mental hospitals. He used these frequent visits to shield himself from prosecution. Investigators called it his act. Then, in 1990, the man they dubbed the Odd Father found himself in court once again. But while other mobsters were being jailed on racketeering charges, the feds could not convict Gigante. Once again, his bizarre behavior kept him out of prison.
Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to our channel and check out more of our content. Feel free to give your feedback and suggestions on what we should do next in the comments. This is Infinite Lee Productions. We love ya.